Secretary Bird, I choose you! Yeah, that's right. This animal of the week is possibly the coolest animal ever. Period. Exclamation mark. Question mark. Comma. Colon. Semicolon. The Secretary Bird. I know it's unassuming name. Do not mistake this bird because of its unassuming name. This is possibly the coolest animal ever. Now, I'm going to read you the bio of this card because everything else doesn't really apply to it. They are current approximately 3.7 feet long and have a height of 11.5 feet. And they have a wingspan of 6.3 to 6.11 feet. And they weigh approximately 8.2 pounds. Even though this bird looks like it can't fly, it still certainly very much can. It flies much like a stork, but it's an eagle. It's an eagle on stilts. It is in the eagle family, because, of course it is. This is the only bird of prey, in fact, the only bird in the world that kicks its prey to death. It is not the only bird, raptor, that hunts its prey on the ground. The other one being the Harris's hawk. And if you're anything smaller than a kitten, this is your worst nightmare, as you can clearly see him kicking a snake. Snakes are their favorite food. That's like their whole existence. These birds prove time and time again that striking from the sky is overrated. They are the fastest karate masters in the West. Considering they're from Africa, the most hardcore place ever to live, especially if you're, a lightweight bird, this should indicate of how overpowered these birds truly are. In Tierzoo's Raptor Tier List and Bird Tier List, the Secretary Bird was an S-tier bird for obvious reasons, as you can clearly see by the videos and that I put up on screen. But anyway, as I established earlier, the Secretary Birds are native to sub-Saharan Africa, and they come from the savanna area of Africa. And they have armored scales on their feet, as well as claws on their feet, like that of a velociraptor, which they use to stomp down snakes. But they also eat, pretty much, as I said earlier, anything smaller than a kitten, but their favorite being snakes. And they are a member of the hawk family. I know I said eagle earlier, but as I did more research, it actually is a hawk. But, yeah, they come from the grassland parts of Africa, so the reason why they have such long legs is to keep the snake from biting its body, and so it could see over the tall grass to hunt. So, one, it could see its food, and two, so it could scout for predators. Its natural predators are, well, what you would expect a animal of that size as predators would be in Africa. I'm not going to name them all because there is a lot, but regardless, yeah, they do nest in acacia trees. During the breeding season, which I don't know when that is, but much like other birds, they do have one mate for the rest of their life. The Secretary Birds do have a very cool looking crown of feathers on top of their head, which I don't really know what they're used for, actually, but I can only imagine that it's used for breeding or a threat display. Secretary birds, as you can see in some of the pictures that are up on screen, they do have long eyelashes, which they use to have sand get kept out of their eyes, because, when you hunt in a semi-arid place, of course you're going to get sand up in your eyes, and your nose, which they have a flab of skin protecting their nose, so they don't get sand up their nose either. Now, Secretary birds are a medium to large-ish sized bird. Much like other birds, they do have a very fast growth rate. So they only stay chicks for a certain amount of time. They leave the nest when they're about maybe a year old. However, unlike other hawks, secretary birds do take a while to get off the ground, which makes sense given the body plan that they have. And they do still sometimes hunt from the sky by jumping down on a prey like that of a velociraptor. However, they cannot pick things up off the ground using their talons like that of any other bird. Instead, they use their mouth, which is unusual for a bird. And much like other, in some of the other videos slash pictures that you've seen, they can hunt just like a rooster by jumping up off the ground and kicking, or they just stomp on it. And they even pounce on some of their prey as well. They do hunt in pairs often when they're hunting a social mammal, particularly like, say, the meerkat. They do sometimes team up and hunt in pairs and to try to take down a social or much larger prey item rather than just a solitary snake. Secretary birds do often also sometimes eat bugs, but very rarely they like their meat red and vertebrate prey. They can run a decent while and actually pretty fast too. Of course, they fly a lot faster than they would running because, you know, they're a bird, but they can maybe run about the half the speed of a ostrich, I think, but they can fly just as fast as an ostrich. So there's kind of really no escaping from them per se. They are very skittish / peaceful creatures to us humans, that is. They pretty much just act like any other bird when we approach them, just fly away or run away in chickens' cases. But generally, we should be fine. That being said, though, there have been multiple instances where people have gotten attacked by secretary birds and even died from secretary birds. So they're more than capable of doing that. In fact, even when they cannot fly away, that is how they defend themselves. They defend themselves by, well, kicking / slashing with their feet, similar to what a rooster would do. So, yeah, I really don't have much to say other than the secretary bird is literally a modern-day flying velociraptor. The coolest animal ever. My favorite animal, with the exception of a couple others. And all around, just a very great animal to have around. They are great for pest control. They are very great for protecting not only young birds themselves, but also chickens, which is a little bit surprising. And they do also sometimes team up with chickens, I found out, to hunt animals, because chickens are garbage guts. They'll pretty much eat anything you give them. Secretary birds will not do that because they're strictly carnivorous, but still. They are the perfect killing machines, and they are perfect at what they do. They're fast, they're powerful, they're strong, they can fly, they have impressive armor on their legs, and impressive weaponry. In fact, their feathers are also pretty good at defending themselves, much like a vulture would defend itself against a raven. And their wings are, much like other birds, are incredibly powerful. You do not want to get hit by their wings. That is the secretary bird.